Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to D4, special guest starring my good friend Chris from Treantmonk's Temple. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Colby?
It's going great, and you know what? It's going amazingly well because we got today the new Unearthed Arcana with some new changes to the monk, and I woke up this morning and I'm kind of rubbing my eyes and getting the sleep out of my eyes and, making breakfast. And I pull up on my phone and I have a message from Chris on Discord. And it's like, new Monk UA, like, you want to do a video? And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, probably, maybe. What? Like, don't even know what time it is. And he's like, it's pretty good. And I got super excited and I jumped and I looked at, the UA just really quickly. And I was like, oh yeah, like we got to talk about this, especially like you said, because when we did a video on the Monk UA 6, check it out over there. I think I'll link to it. It was not good.
It was not a happy video. Yeah, it was not a happy video. I have a different attitude today, which
Yeah.
I think I could sum it up like this.
Woo! That is awesome. I think you need to keep that on for the rest of the video.
It's good.
That's awesome. Yes, yes. He sent me a GIF that was just a Star Wars GIF, just like we won. Yeah, and it feels that way. So today, go ahead.
It feels like it's been like 2 to 3 years of first just trying to convince people that there was something the monk wasn't keeping up, and then seeing it slowly come along where people start to accept it, and then out comes Unearthed Arcana 6, and we've got a wash. Nothing's done, and it was so deflating.
Yeah.
And now we have this, which we're about to talk about.
Yes. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. Similar to last time, we're going to break this up into 2 parts. We're going to do part 1 here. There's a little less content to go over because last time there were 3 subclasses, right, to talk about. And today we just have an update to the open hand, which I think is appropriate. Shadow Monk and
the other 2 were the ones those were the only things we were nice to in the last videos.
Right. Yeah. So they made lots of changes, little tweaks to the base class, and then some nice changes to the open hand as well. So we're going to go through like up to level 10 of the base class in part 1 here, and then we'll go part 2 in Chris's video or on Chris's channel. Watch it here. I'll link to it, and I'll put a link in the video description as well. But let me just say this maybe before we start. In case, especially for those that are new to this channel, because I've had a lot of new subscribers over the last few months, thanks mostly to Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm really hoping and happy to see that some of those Baldur's Gate 3 viewers are kind of converting into like D&D players and watchers. And so for those of you who don't know who Chris is, Treantmonk's Temple, like, I mean... Look, compared to Chris, like, I'm a hack. That's all there is to it. Like, when it comes to, like, knowing the rules and, like, how they all work and interact, I'll read something in on D&D Beyond 8 times sometimes before I realize, like, hey, wait a second. Like, this actually might work in this way and interact with this other thing in this important and meaningful way. And Chris is like, he reads it once and he knows everything about all of the implications about how this is going to affect that, or how this is broken or stronger than you might think or weaker than you might think. And so, yeah, like I look to you, Chris, as, my source for all things rules related, and more than rules, like, how to kind of really understand the implications of an ability or how something is worded in D&D. And so please, if you have not yet subscribed to his channel, like, go check it out, subscribe. You're going to learn so much. I'm loving the latest stuff that you've been putting out on Scribes Wizards, for example.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and like before your channel came along, I used to do builds like really often. Now I don't do them nearly as often.
Yeah.
Because for largely the same reason, I'll watch your videos and I'm like, I don't think I can really top that.
Well, I don't know. I still get comments every time.
But he doesn't do the rules analysis stuff. I'll do that instead.
Right. Well, and every time I do a rogue, somebody's always making a comment. Well, what about the Phantom rogue?
Yeah, that's not even my build. That's
where you're killing
a friend of mine made that build.
Your summoned steed or whatever. Not summoned steed, the whatever
Phantom
the wizard.
Steed.
Yeah, Phantom Steed, thank you.
Yeah.
And then getting lots of benefits from it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I know that exists, but like Chris already did it, and so I'm not just gonna like do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyway, you know what? I'm going to link. You said earlier, you talked about how it's been 2 or 3 years of trying to, first of all, convince people that like the monk isn't very good. And like, let's give credit where credit's due. I mean, you put out that monk suck video, a few years ago. And I think, to me, that's what sort of started the awakening, if you will.
Yeah, that is to date. I think it's certainly one of my videos with the most dislikes. Yeah.
Sometimes the truth hurts,
Yeah. Like at the time, it was not all that positively received.
Right.
It was by a number of people, but
yeah,
there was a good group of people who were very upset with it.
But I feel like it's kind of in the zeitgeist now, right? That I mean, not everybody, but way more people, and it shows, right, as a result of all the feedback that Wizards of the Coast clearly got. That like everybody was just like, this isn't enough. Like, don't you know that we're spending key points for too much, and we use key points for everything. We don't have enough of them, at least at early levels especially, and the damage doesn't keep up, and blah 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 blah. And I mean, they've made a lot of great changes that are so encouraging, and it feels like finally the work that you started so long ago
that's what it feels
bearing
like.
fruit.
It's like, and finally we're there. It looks like, I mean, I think we should go through it and then
Yes.
sum up, but
Yes,
I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I think we're going to go level by level, right? Just
Yes,
start
we
at
are.
level 1 and move
Yep.
on. Okay.
and we're just gonna jump in. So right out the gate, there's some changes that we're seeing, like to just kind of the base class right at level 1, right? So the first thing that popped out to me, we have proficiency in simple weapons and martial weapons with the light property.
Easily the most important change at level 1, right there.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean, so we're talking scimitars, short swords, and hand crossbows, right?
And one of the things that just was so infuriating about the last playtest, Monk, was that it didn't qualify for any of the combat feats.
Right.
And now it qualifies for most of them.
Right.
A Great Weapon Master still isn't going to work very good for you, but most of them you can get now.
Now, kind of in conjunction with that, they've completely removed weapon masteries from monks. So
Yes.
monks have no weapon masteries. I mean, I would way rather have this than what we had with UA6,
No question.
right?
Yeah.
But tell me this, why wouldn't I, on every single monk, or nearly every monk that I ever build, take a 1-level fighter dip for weapon
That's
masteries?
exactly what I asked myself, because I'm thinking, why don't I want Nick now? Because I'll take the attack action, and if I have Nick, it is now going to scale with my martial arts die, right? So I can have a dagger or whatever. Does a dagger have Nick? I think so.
I think so.
And so I can have a dagger and just get a D10 or a D12 attack that I can apply a sonic strike to if I hit or whatever.
Right.
Why wouldn't I want that? And then
Right.
I thought, well, do I need to multi-class to get that? No, because I
take a
now
feat.
qualify. I can take a feat that I now qualify for
Yeah.
called Weapon Mastery. And I'm like, might do that. Might do that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, I'm usually of the opinion that like we have 20 levels, but only, 5 feats or whatever. And I tend to, go, well, you know what? I'd rather give up a level than one of those feats, especially with monks being as mad as they are, wanting both dex and wisdom and constitution, of course. But still,
now it is a half feat. Like the other fourth level feats, it is a half feat, so you can increase your dexterity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you're really only giving up the secondary part of a feat. I would have to punch math, but I asked myself the exact same question, and that was the answer I gave myself. Maybe I would take the feat. So I don't think it's an obvious answer that you would definitely multi-class.
And as long as it's like something to think about, I'm happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move on.
The other notable thing was your bonus action attack with martial arts is no longer tied to the attack action.
This is my favorite. My favorite level 1 change.
You can do whatever you want with your action, and you can do the bonus action attack, or more importantly, and this is why I'm glad we don't do initial reactions, right? Because Colby actually asked me, should we just go into it blind and read it through? I'm like, no, whenever I do that, I'm never happy with my opinions
stuff
an hour later. And I thought about it afterwards. I'm like, actually, what's really important here is I can take my bonus action attack before I take my action.
Yes.
And there's some good reasons why that's really nice.
There are now, help me out here. I can think of very few, maybe only one class in the game currently that lets you just make a bonus action attack without taking the attack action, right? The Berserker Barbarian. And then and that sucks because you have exhaustion. And this is huge potentially for things like so okay, I could bonus action unarmed strike. Okay, so
we're going to get into something later on.
There's lots of stuff.
I will bring this up again. We'll circle back to this
when we get into way of hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Yeah,
I bet you we're on the same wavelength.
Yes.
On a certain feature. Yeah.
Yes, I think so. So anyway, needless to say, this is nice, and I think people when they first see this might go, but when you really think about it and find ways that you can now do all kinds of things, especially if you're multi-classing, is what I'm thinking. Like, I could cast a spell with my action and still make an unarmed strike bonus attack, or whatever. It's just, it opens up stuff and just makes it really cool.
I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
The other really big thing here at level 1 that we need to talk about because it's excellent, dexterity for shove and grapple.
Yeah. I mean,
so
what other class can grapple with dexterity?
Yeah. Now, so in the playtest, the way they work is when you make an unarmed strike, you can choose to grapple or shove, and it's a saving throw. And the DC is normally set by your strength. This was a problem for monks, right?
Yep.
Because you just can't fit a good strength on a monk.
Yep.
But now being able to use dexterity means that you will be good at grappling and shoving. And because they replace unarmed strikes, flurry of blows and bonus action unarmed strikes that can occur before your attack action,
right?
Shove somebody prone.
I mean, you could
there's combos there, right?
You could flurry of blows, and we haven't talked about flurry of blows yet, but you could flurry of blows at the beginning of your turn to grapple and then shove them prone, and then make your attacks with them having advantage. They can't stand up because they have no move speed. Like, it's just it's a real jujitsu kind of move here.
And I play tested the Unearthed Arcana 6 monk, and there's we determined at that time there's very few feats you can take. So I'm here trying to find feats for this monk, and one of the very few ones it did qualify for was the grappler feat. which I took because there was nothing else to take.
Yeah.
Now it's exceptional, and if you do have something grappled, with the grappler feat, you can drag them without any movement penalty, and you're a monk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. Now, remind me, because you know the Unearthed Arcana better than I do. You've been keeping up on it and making.
I've been combing over it carefully.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a saving throw now, so it's not affected by like our athletics. So if we were to take expertise,
no, doesn't matter.
Like it's not going to benefit us, right? So it just makes me feel like monks are potentially now the new best grapplers. I mean, rune knights and giant barbarians can still get big.
Yeah, there's still the size thing. Right,
yeah.
and I mean, if you are a barbarian or a fighter, you're going to have as good a strength as the monk.
A monk has
dexterity.
Dex.
So you're. I don't know if we're better. We might have more grapple attempts.
Right, and the fact that we can do it as a bonus action is huge. I mean, what Battlemaster fighters can do that if they use a superiority. If they use a technique. They make an attack and then can grapple as a bonus action, right? There's probably some others.
If we're talking about the best grappler in the playtest, at least the monk is at the table now.
Right.
It wasn't before, now it is.
Right, and that's awesome. Well, okay, so the martial arts damage, this was the same in UA6, right? It starts at a D6, goes to a D8 at level 5. To me, it still feels like that's not as big a deal as Wizards of the Coast might think, but at the same time, like, we've got a lot of other buffs. Maybe like it's fine, you know what I mean? And also, the fact that, for example, we can. So we have short sword and scimitar proficiency. Those are D6 weapons. We can use our martial arts die to replace the damage die of those. And now, right at level 5. It's like we're using a long sword with one hand instead of a short sword. Again, it's not huge, but like, hey, it's a little bump, and it's appreciated.
I completely agree with you that it isn't the bump that Wizards of the Coast clearly thought it was, right? Because that's what they gave us in Unearthed Arcana 6. But it doesn't bother me that they haven't increased it, because that wasn't the problem. Right. With the monk.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like, this monk would be fine if only that martial arts die scaled a little faster.
More quickly.
No. It was everything. Right. And they've sprinkled stuff all over the place here.
Throughout.
So I'm fine with the martial arts die not changing. It's and there's gonna be ways this monk can do a lot of damage.
Right. Unarmored defense, no change, right?
No change.
Just wisdom mod, dex mod. +10.
Look to be word for word.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with. And you know what? Well, okay, let's get into the monk's discipline, because what I love is that previously, and you know this better than anybody because you made some videos about it, it was almost like maybe we should put armor on our monk. You know what I mean? I mean, we're going to lose some things, but it might be worth it. And now it's kind of like, because of the way that they've buffed monk's discipline, it's like, I really don't want to put armor on my monk. And that's great, I think. So monk's discipline replaces martial discipline from the last UA, replacing martial arts from current 5e.
We're on to level 2 now.
Okay, right. Yeah, I should mention that. So we still get key points or discipline points, right, at the same rate, 1 per level. And we still start with Flurry, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind, but they're so much better. Because Flurry of Blows, like we said, you don't have to take the attack action first, so that's huge.
Now, I don't think you did before, right? Flurry of Blows was the one way you could take it whenever, wasn't it?
In UA6?
I'm talking about in the Player's Handbook.
In the current Player's Handbook, I swear that's not the case, but I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too.
In Baldur's Gate 3, take a drink if you're playing the drinking game at home. This is a drinking game.
Oh no, you had to take the attack action first.
You have to take the attack action, yeah. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can Flurry of Blows. It's not tied to attack action. But anyway, okay.
So it being able to be used first really big, especially for the open hand monk, as we're about to talk about. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's just that was what I was a little nervous when I first saw, oh, you can do a bonus action unarmed strike and it's not tied to the attack action. I really hope that they made that carry over to flurry of blows too, and they did. But then also, well, why don't you talk about patient defense and step of the wind? Because
okay, so Colby and I have both said this before. Obviously, the monk should be able to dash or disengage as a bonus action without expending a resource, which they now can do. So if you use patient defense, you can disengage as a bonus action, no key required, but you can make it better if you spend a discipline point, not a key point. If you spend a discipline point, then you can disengage and dodge with the same bonus action. And then Step of the Wind allows you to dash as a bonus action with no discipline point required. But if you spend it, then you can dash, get the bonus action, the double jump distance, and a disengage on top of that.
Disengage, right. So we would complain, right? It's like rogues can do this for free, basically, with their cunning action. Yeah. Monks have to spend a key point for it. Now, and I don't mind, like, okay, so the gosh dang it, come on brain, patient defense, we can disengage bonus action for free, great, and now we spend a key to disengage and dodge, and you know what, that's fine. Like, rogues can't dodge with their cunning action. That's a pretty powerful
essentially
feature.
Between Step in the Wind and patient defense, they've given us cunning action plus the ability to use discipline points to make it better.
Right. We can't hide as a bonus action like rogues can, but maybe we don't care about that.
I don't hide that much with monks anyway. Yeah.
Right. Or rogues for that matter, personally.
Yeah. Well, I do, but
yeah. But so yeah, this is awesome. It just opens up the abilities that we have, doesn't cost key for regular, and then gives you like a bonus if you do want to spend a key. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or, someday we'll learn to call them discipline points.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a while for me.
Gotta break a habit.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. And then, okay, so then we get uncanny metabolism. So I think we talked about this in our last video. This regain, it was heightened metabolism, right, in UA6,
and it wasn't until level 7,
right? Yeah. And so it's like it lets you regain some discipline points once per long rest, right?
The old version was basically you could take a short rest and it took you a minute, I think, right. But you could only do it once per long rest. Now you don't need that minute. Now you just roll initiative and say, I'm low on my discipline points. I'll just restore them all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once per long rest, you get them back. So that's great. I mean, and I think that's exactly what we said. It's like, this is nice, but we need it earlier. Because by level 7, you're not as worried about not having enough discipline points. At level 2,
I still run out of discipline points at level 7, but I'm suffering at level 6. Right, and level 5 and level 4. Moving it earlier is great. Having it not take the minute and just happen. I thoroughly believe that this is a very positive direction, that they're putting more and more features that when you roll initiative, this thing happens.
It just happens. It doesn't require a bonus action. It doesn't require an action. It doesn't require a reaction. Like, I wish and I hope that we will see, like, one of my greatest wishes, and especially, again, gosh dang it, after playing Baldur's Gate 3, like, one thing that I love about that game is the way that you can sort of anticipate combat coming and, like, prepare for it. You know what I mean? And so, like, you've got a self buff that you want to give yourself, and and then you go into combat, and it's a little cheesy, and I don't necessarily want D&D to work that way because it's maybe too video gamey, right? But yeah, like, more things where it's like, oh, initiative is rolled, like, combat's about to happen. Okay, let me throw a buff on myself, you know, right here at the beginning without having to spend a resource, so that when my first turn comes, I'm not, like, trying to do all these things to, like, get myself ready. It's like you're just jumping in.
And what I like about this one versus the 1 minute version is I can just foresee that kind of case where, it's easy to plan things when you're not playing, right? And you're sitting down and going, this is how that's going to work. I'll just take a minute whenever. But sometimes when you're playing, oh, it's the big fight.
Yeah.
I didn't know the big fight was going to be in this room.
Yeah,
Roll
exactly.
initiative. Well, can I wait a minute? But now I can go, oh, the big fight. Okay, I restore all my key.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's only once per long rest, but considering that you get those discipline points back on a short rest.
It's got to be once per long rest.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
It would be too much.
No. And that's great. Like, because maybe this is going to depend on your table, but speaking personally, right? More often than not, at our table, we're getting a short rest, if not after every combat, then after every couple of combats. And so, and we typically only have 2 or 3 combat encounters per long rest, maybe 4, you know what I mean? And so this is just feels like just enough to kind of really get you through, especially at those early levels, to make sure that you've got at least some key almost every fight to do, things that you need to do.
And there's a lot less chance of getting caught with your pants down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So unarmored movement.
Level 3. Yeah, it is the same. Right?
No change. But again, more likely to be taken advantage of now that we've got really good
more
reason
likely
not to
to
wear
dash.
armor. Sure.
And more likely to dash. So you're gonna take advantage of that move a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then level 3 is big. Whew.
Yes, deflect attacks. So no longer deflect missiles, it's deflect attacks, and it works against melee attacks as well. And as long as, for now anyway, it's bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, which the majority of the damage that we're taking, especially in melee, is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's less prevalent than it used to be.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
There's more alternate damage types now, but it's still most attacks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And we will deal with those other damage types eventually.
Sure. And so it lets us redirect. If it's a missile, it's same. You can throw it back at a range of, is it 30 feet, 60 feet?
It is 60 feet.
Okay, but then if it's melee, you can redirect it to within 5 feet, and it can go back and hit the person who's attacking you. Right, the creature that's attacking you. You could just stop hitting yourself. I love it. Now that 5 feet thing makes me a little just because you're going to run into enemies that have reach.
Though we probably don't have reach, so there's a good chance somebody's within 5 feet. So the guy is 10 feet away from you, throws his gigantic fist, and you go. And then he hits his buddy right beside you, right?
Or you just go.
I'm envisioning it in my head, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so great. And the damage that you do,
they improve the damage.
Yes. Yeah. So now it's 2 times your martial arts die plus your dex mod. Whereas at least in the current 5e, it's just 1 times your martial arts die, period. Right. And
in the last playtest, it was 2 times your martial arts die.
But
so now you're just adding your dex mod on top of that. So it might be worth the key now.
Right.
Because the discipline, maybe. I mean, you'll have to decide, but
right. And again, I'm okay with that. I don't mind it being situationally good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because yes, the reality is you're going to do more damage if you're trying to decide, do I spend a key point on this or on Flurry of Blows because I only have 1 left or whatever. Then you're going to generally get more damage out of Flurry of Blows because that's going to do martial arts die plus dex, martial arts die plus dex, right?
But you're getting 1 attack anyway with your bonus, so it's really only 1 attack, right? Right. So until we get to later levels, but at this point, it's still only 1 additional attack. So it would be martial arts die plus dex. And then if you spend your key or your discipline point here instead, it's double your martial arts die.
Yeah,
plus dex.
That's true. That's true.
I think if you want to do the most damage,
you're going to redirect.
This is pretty good. This is a
Yeah,
pretty
you're
good
right,
way to
because you
deliver
still
damage.
because this doesn't cost your bonus action, it costs your
Yeah.
reaction. And so I
Yeah,
can still bonus action one unarmed strike. Yeah, you're right.
that's right.
And two times your martial arts die plus your dex mod. And again, especially if you're potentially going to finish off an enemy and prevent them from getting their turn, right? By doing a
Yeah.
little bit more damage to them here with your reaction. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now they get a saving throw to avoid the entire thing,
Right, and it's
and
not
that's
half damage.
Yeah, and it's a dexterity save, which
Yeah.
isn't a bad save to target.
No.
You're gonna want to think about who you're fighting, right?
Yeah. What's your plus to hit chance? Do you have advantage on your attacks? Are you more likely going to do damage with flurry of blows or this? What's their deck save? I mean, all of those things are going to come into play, but again,
Yeah.
great. Like I love things that are like sometimes I'm going to want to do this and sometimes I'm not going to want to do this and that's okay.
And the thing that really strikes me here is that, at least the way I play a monk, they're usually in melee.
Yeah.
And the deflect arrows just didn't come up all that often. I mean, it felt great when it did. You go, I finally get to deflect an arrow.
Right.
But I see this coming up significantly more often.
Way more.
So you're going to have a defensive use for your reaction.
Mhm.
And monks, I've always said, they need boosts to offense. They need boosts to defense. Here's a boost to defense.
And yeah, it does both, right? I mean, yeah, that's true. I do tend to think about things like only from a damage perspective, but like let's not forget a D10 plus monk level plus dex mod in damage reduction.
Yeah, it's all of it.
It's a lot.
D10, dex modifier, and monk level.
That's a lot. Oof, it makes me just so happy. Okay. Right. Up next, let's see. Slow fall, no change at level 4.
Yeah.
Level 5, stunning strike. Changed and this is better, right? This is better. Like, so okay.
Best version I've seen so far.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah.
Because
I have a problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Okay.
But it is the best so far.
Yes.
And it does address my main concern with stunning strike.
Right, because the crappiest thing about stunning strike is that it's always been this awesome if it works, worthless if it doesn't, and usually it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a
exactly.
constitution saving throw. So, I mean, depending on what you're fighting, depending on your level, more often than not, it felt like in play, like, enemies were making that con save, and now you've spent a key to try and stun them and wasted your key. But here, now, again, like with UA6, you can only do it once per turn, right? You can only attempt this once per turn.
Which I'm fine with.
Especially considering the buff that they gave it, right? It makes sense. But and they're only stunned until the start of our next turn instead of the end of our next turn. So again, that nerf to it kind of stays in place. But if they fail their save, they're stunned. But if they succeed on their saving throw, they're going to take force damage equal to our martial arts die plus our wisdom modifier. Now, that's not amazing damage, but it's something, and
it's a hit worth of damage without needing to hit.
Right. They get no save. Well, I mean, yeah, it's not against their armor class. There's no save. Like, if you have hit them and spent a discipline point to try and stun them, well, even if they succeed, they're going to take damage, period.
Yeah.
And unless they're immune to force damage, I guess.
I guess, but that is extremely rare.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it takes this ability from being like awesome when it works, crap when it doesn't, and usually it doesn't, to amazing when it works and like not terrible when it doesn't. You know what I mean? So probably worth spending a key point on, especially later on when you've got lots of key to spare.
I have no key to spare because I only have discipline points.
It's key. It's always going to be key.
I have 2 minor nitpicks here. All right.
Okay.
And I might be splitting hairs because I am reasonably satisfied with this.
Mm-hmm.
The first is I still think the stun could last to the end of the monk's next turn. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And it feels good for the monk to be able to hit their own stun target.
Yes.
Right. In the following round. And my other nitpick is thematically, I don't understand why I'm not getting any extra damage if they make their saving throw. Right? They take more damage if they fail their save than if they make it. Now, stun is worse. Being stunned is worse than taking the damage. It's just,
unless the damage would have killed them. It's
just a little weird. It's a little, like I'm trying to figure out why are they taking damage if they make their saving throw,
make their save,
but they're not taking the damage if they fail their saving throw. Like I'm not. I'm trying to thematically work it out in my head, visualize what's happening here, and I'm having trouble with it.
Sure, there will be times, no question. Now, you're right. Most of the time, stunning them is better than doing, a D6 plus wisdom modifier.
9 out of 10 times, unless they're not next in initiative.
Right, and have 3-4 hit points left, right?
Yeah.
Because there will be times when it's like, the dead condition is better than the stunned condition to inflict on an enemy.
Yeah, and that's the real issue, is that you might have dropped them if they had made their saving throw.
Right.
But you don't drop them if they fail.
So there will be times where you're like, please make your save, please make your save, please, dang it, I stunned them, you know what I mean? And that is a little weird.
And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that's weak, right? Like, sure. It's not unbalanced, it's just thematically weird to me.
Sure. So yes, Wizards of the Coast, if any of you are listening, like, we're not saying go back to the way Stunning Strike used to be or anything like this is great.
No.
And if you make no other changes, we will be happy. Yeah. But maybe consider, like, whether they succeed or fail, they do damage, or maybe they take more damage if they fail their save and half damage if they succeed or something.
Even explain it in the future what's happening.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Give us a mental image of what's happening, because mechanically I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
It's just I'm trying to just think in my head, what the heck is happening here?
It's like you're trying to hit them in just the right sort of like chakra.
I guess you could say something like.
But they move, and so instead you punch them, in a place not in their chakra, but like it's hurting. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it is like the. Where you hit them and you stun them, but if they force themselves out, it's doing damage to them somehow to force out of it or something. I don't know. But
there you go. They're like,
I need it explained somehow.
It's like you got them in an arm bar and they're dislocating their shoulder in order to get out of it. Like, hey, they're not grappled, but they maybe took a little damage for getting out. Something like that. Something. I just need something to visualize. I like to visualize as I play. Sure,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, awesome. Hooray. Thank you.
Yeah.
We love it. Yes. Okay, let's see. Level 6. Empowered Strikes just does force damage if you want. That's no change from UA 6, right?
Same. It's the same.
And I mean, you know this better than I do.
Had a very similar look and body language when we brought it up last time too.
You know this better than I do. Yeah. What's more commonly resisted? Magical bludgeoning damage or force damage?
Resisted? Magical bludgeoning
is more commonly resisted. Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Because there's some creatures that are just immune to all bludgeoning damage.
Got it.
Like, for example, a treant.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so maybe force damage is better than making your unarmed strikes magical for the purpose of overcoming.
There are still creatures immune to force damage. I'm trying to think of any that are resistant, and I can't think of any.
Yeah.
But there are a couple that are immune, but it's very few. Very few.
And to be fair,
I think it's pretty. This is fine.
Yeah. And to be fair, it does force damage if you want. So if you run into something that's immune to force damage, well, I do.
Yeah, I forget what dragon it is that does force damage, but it does not have resistance to non-magical weapons. So you can just punch it with your regular bludgeoning damage and you're fine.
There you go. This does bring up something for me that isn't really related to the UA necessarily, but something that I hope to see more of in One D&D, whatever, the new version of D&D 5e, the updated version of D&D 5e. More magic items for unarmed strikers.
Yeah. They promised that in, I think it was Unearthed Arcana 7 or something.
Yeah.
There was a sidebar that said, "Designer's note: there will be more weapons
Yes.
to work with unarmed strikes in the
Yes.
Dungeon Master's Guide." Now, I am skeptical and apprehensive that these are all going to be attunement items, right? But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, again, something that Baldur's Gate 3 has really highlighted for me is, you know, when I play a monk there, man, I get robes that do great stuff for my unarmed strikes. I get rings, I get, you know, gloves, and it's awesome because it lets you feel like I can keep up with, you know, somebody that's got a flame tongue longsword or, you know, whatever. Which is one area that, you know, where monks and like moon druids and, you know, other beast barbarians, right, really kind of fall behind, where it's like, this looks good on paper, but once you start introducing magic weapons into the mix, it's like, this kind of struggles to keep up.
Even a +1 weapon, right? Your unarmed strikes are treated as magical versus a +1 weapon. Well, the +1 weapon is just better, like way better. You know, and it only gets worse as you get to +2 and +3.
Right. So yes, I hope that they make good on that promise. I'll just say that as we're talking about empowered strikes.
I believe them that there will be those items.
Yes.
I hope they're not just worse. And we'll see.
Right.
I'm not going to hold my breath too hard on that. We'll see how that shakes out. But there's enough goodies here. I think I'm okay. I don't foresee making a monk's suck video for this monk.
Yes. And you know, there are things already, I guess, like the what's that weapon, that magic item from Horde of the Dragon Queen, the claw, insignia of the claw, and there's the tattoo, the Eldritch Claw tattoo, I think. Right. So more stuff like that, please.
Well, that's what it will be, because those are both attunement, I think, aren't they?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they both are, but yeah, maybe they could consider
I'd love
moving attunement.
gloves plus knuckle dusters +1.
There you go. Give me some brass knuckles or fist wraps. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on. Level 7 evasion, no change. Acrobatic movement, no change. Same. Right?
Yeah, I didn't see any change.
From UA6, maybe do we need to mention that in case people don't know what that is? It's level 9. It's a level 9 ability.
It's where you run on the walls and you run over water. And don't end your turn
right.
there. But
don't end your turn in the middle of the pond or you're gonna sink. But yeah, so that's just the improved unarmored movement or whatever from existing. Excuse me.
And level 10 is big. We got two
level
big features.
Awesome. Yeah. Level 10 is awesome, and this is the last. This is the end of this video. So we get heightened discipline first up, right? And since the creation of the monk, I feel like the archetype or the fantasy that most of us have, maybe I'm overgeneralizing here, is like a light, quick, fast attacker that should be able to, like, if they're a martial arts specialist, I'm picturing a Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, like flurry of blows should be flurry of blows. Like they should be making more attacks than any other class, as far as I'm concerned, right? Maybe they don't hit quite as hard, but you know, that's the archetype, that's the fantasy. And here, heightened discipline tells us at level 10 that our flurry of blows can, when we spend that discipline point to use flurry of blows, we make 3 unarmed strikes instead of 2. And so now with extra attack, we're making 5. And
I think you'd be spending discipline on this all the time.
Yes.
Right? Like, unless you're out,
not to.
This is a good deal. Really good deal.
And it really makes things like even like Hunter's Mark, I know you just did a video on this recently, or like a Spirit Shroud or whatever, like that much more potent on a monk. It makes me so happy.
It even makes something like Stunning Strike better, because if you want to use Stunning Strike, you have to hit. The more attacks you have, the better chance you hit.
Yep.
Right? You just got to hit once, right?
Yep.
And so it means that smaller increase to the martial arts die means more.
Yes.
Because we're getting additional attack. So yeah, it's only a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But the more times we apply that tiny bit, the more it adds up. Nick weapon once, extra flurry blows once, and the little benefit becomes a moderate benefit.
Hex. I'm thinking Hexblade, using Hexblade's curse, and getting your proficiency.
Yeah. Now, of course, you're talking about things that have a bonus action conflict. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Flurry is a bonus action.
Hunter's
I'm not
Mark.
big.
Yep.
I'm not big into the whole one round setup and then next round I'll do this.
Yeah,
I would rather just do it. Right?
Come out punching. Yeah. Yeah. It all depends on how long you're going to be attacking this target. How long is this combat encounter going to last? But no, you're right. More often than not, you're going to be better off getting 3 unarmed strikes than you are transferring a Hunter's Mark for an extra d6 of damage, so that
next 3.
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say I hope we see more things in the next version where it's like, let me do a little buff, like when initiative happens or whatever, so we don't have to spend time ramping up. But then there's a counter argument there, right, where it's like, well, you were going to do more damage because you took this ability or multi-classed with that class or took this spell, and that's the upside. But the downside is, you got to spend a resource to get there. And so
I'm going to say something that will be the first time I've ever said this about a monk ever.
Mm-hmm.
This maybe comes a level too early.
You think? Because level 11 is when like fighters get their extra attack.
Yeah. The monks, I said this in the last video, the monks need something at level 11.
Yeah.
This was level 11. That would be this thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you're a bandit at level 10. You still get your self-restoration. Mm-hmm. And then the level 11 would come and the martial arts die goes up, and you're getting the additional attack with the flurry blows, as well as the other 2 things we're about to talk about. It would feel...
Yeah.
And that's a nerf. I just recommended a nerf on this one.
Wizards of the Coast.
It's a tiny nerf.
Don't listen to him. Keep it at level 10.
It's too strong, Wizards.
No.
You better redesign the whole thing. Go back to formula.
Monks have suffered for so long. This is just karma. It's just, maybe
the 2014 monk was fine.
Oh, it's so good. It makes me so happy. But there's more, because all of our martial arts features, or whatever they're called now, anyway, all of our martial arts features get buffed here, right? Flurry of blows, patient defense now says that if we spend a discipline point for patient defense, right, so that we could both take the dodge action and disengage, then we gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of our martial arts die, which is 2d8 now. Nice.
And more than nice too, because this is 1 discipline point and you can do it every round.
Yeah.
So you could
temp HP.
You could add a lot. Like if you're taking a beating, you can really add a lot of resilience. And because that's on top of a dodge action, if you needed to go into defense mode and do some tanking, it's reasonably affordable, and it is pretty darn good. Now, obviously, they don't stack, right? But if you're taking damage consistently, this will really, really mitigate that.
Especially because we can use our reaction to redirect an attack against us, reducing the damage that we take before it even starts to apply to those temporary hit points.
Big defensive boosts on this monk, which are great to see. I've always figured that the monk maybe needed a higher armor class, but I actually appreciate this approach more.
Yeah, let's mix it up.
Keep the armor class the same, but give them some cool stuff. that helps their defense. I'm not only am I good with this, it's probably better than I would have come up with.
Yeah. And then Step of the Wind gets a buff in that, again, when you spend a discipline point.
I like this one.
Yeah, to Step of the Wind, not only do you get to both dash and disengage, but you can choose a willing, has to be willing, no doing this with enemies,
ally.
A willing creature that's within 5 feet of you, so they got to be right next to you, that's large or smaller, and they get to move with you until the end of your turn. So it's not even like a one-time thing. You could move, make some attacks, and you're still carrying your buddy with you, and you hit them, and then you move to the next enemy and you hit them, and anyway, the whole time you're just carrying your friend. And they don't provoke opportunity attacks when you've got them with you. It's great utility and super fun. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that other melee character who doesn't have the monk's movement and just can't get into the fight, and you're like, hang on, and you grab them, Step of the Wind, now you're dashing, right, with monk speed, and you both are there. Yeah, or they're grappled, and you grab them, not anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about that. It doesn't say that, because their move speed is 0 when they're grappled, but it's not using their move speed, it's using yours. So you can get them out of that if it's a squishy. Let me read the wording on this, in the back line. You can.
I just thought of something.
Yeah.
I just thought of something. Yes. Oh. Okay. How about this? Your buddy just was attacking the Tarrasque, and he got swallowed. Move up next to it. You reach down the gullet. Grab your buddy, pull him out.
They might. Here's because
it does not say he can't be behind total cover, and it does not say you need to see him.
So I'm going to say, like, this might be too strong. Like, it might be okay to nerf this a little bit, where it says so long as your ally's move speed isn't 0. Or if they're behind cover or something.
You could do that.
Or that you can see. You have to see them. Or
there are already features in the game that allow you to do this kind of thing, like bait and switch for the Battle Master. I mean, it's different, but you can move your ally, and it can get them out of a grapple and stuff like that. Whether or not, even if they have 0 movement. So we're playtest. This is a playtest.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine posted today. He said, "I'm gonna do a playtest December 6th." I'm like, I call the monk.
I'm not. Let me be clear. If Wizards of the Coast did not nerf this, I would be perfectly okay with it. But yeah, I could see them scaling that back just a skosh, to make it a little less powerful. But you know what? It's a level 10 feature. We're probably at the end game here for most campaigns, right? And that's not the last level 10 feature, because there's one more. You kind of mentioned it already, self-restoration. This I know you're gonna love, because the big problem with whatever this feature was called before was you had to use your action, or in UA6 your bonus action, to get out of a fear or charm effect. And they included poison in UA6. And
it was called Stillness of Mind, by the way.
Yes, Stillness of Mind. Thank you. And now, like, it removes any question of, well, what if I'm under the effect of, some ability that doesn't give me access to my action or my bonus action or whatever. Now it just says, at the end of your turn, you can just end a charmed, feared, or poisoned condition on yourself. Period.
Yeah. Now, in one way, that actually does, because it was an action to remove the conditions in Player's Handbook. And then in poisoned not, because you got immunity to poison, right?
And disease.
But yeah. And then in the playtest, they made it a bonus action, which is technically a benefit, right?
A little better.
But like you said, there's times you might not be able to use your bonus action. So this saves that. You're no longer using your bonus action. However, because it happens at the end of your turn rather than the beginning of your turn, there is a downside as well. But I love this. I think that's great.
I mean, I'm fine with saying, hey, look, if some enemy is going to spend a fifth level spell slot and cast, dominate person
We
or
don't
whatever.
need we don't need to be immune to everything.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
At least let them get one round of benefit from it. But then at the end, you can just end it. And yeah, it's a lot more clear, and it makes the ability useful all the time when you're charmed or feared. And not some of the time as long as you have access to your action or your bonus action. So yeah, just a great improvement.
For sure.
Okay. That's it for level 10, and I think that's it for part 1, unless you have anything that you want to add here at the end.
No, I obviously we're pretty happy.
Yes,
right?
Very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to end it here. We're going to move on to the rest of the base class, and then the Way of the Open Hand, or the Open Hand Warrior, whatever it's called, in part 2. And again, find that linked in the video description below. So thanks, everybody. Love you guys. Thanks, Chris, for being here with me. And you guys go watch part 2. Okay.